Welcome back to part 2 of our interview with Travis, where we're talking all things service department related. It's an area of our businesses that we don't spend enough time working on and perfecting. And in this episode, we're talking about best practices, training, and approaches to delivering an excellent customer experience through your dealership's service department.
Welcome to Down Payment, the podcast for used car dealers. Prepare to learn something new about the industry that keeps us moving.
Check out all our podcast content on our social media channels. We are at Down Payment Podcast on YouTube, Down Payment Podcast on Instagram, and Down Payment Pod on X. Welcome back to the show. And for those of you that missed part 1 of our interview with Travis, we are talking about the service department. They are such crucial pieces of our operation, and yet we don't invest in them the time, the resources, and the expertise that we need to deliver the best possible customer experience, especially in our used car dealer world. We kind of settle for being okay with our service departments all too often, and we really need to look at the service department as a high customer contact area that we really need to be delivering our best customer experience possible. It's an area that we have to invest in and truly make great to have a great dealership going. And so we have our in-house subject matter expert, Travis, joining us for this show. Travis, welcome back.
Thank you.
So we were talking about kind of the qualities of, what makes a great service writer? What are we looking to hire with a service writer? And I kind of wanted to pivot to the question of training. And I had a real specific question for you when it comes to training new service writers. So when we have a service writer that doesn't have the automotive background, how much background do I need to deliver to them? What type of training do they need to know? What do they need to know automotive-wise to succeed in the service writer job?
To me, they need to know just kind of the bare minimums of the general knowledge of vehicles. And other than that, most of that information, they're just translating the information from the technician to the customer. I think they can get away with very little knowledge, but they do need to know, kind of the parts of the car. I guess maybe as far as the fluids, brakes, tires, steering, a real general knowledge, something a basic, just the real basics of the vehicle.
So it doesn't require necessarily a lot of depth. You're not looking for someone that's like technician light knowledge. It doesn't have to be a lot of technical knowledge.
Nope, not at all. All that will come in a real short amount of time.
Is it possible for that service writer candidate that, they've got excellent customer experience skills, customer service skills, they're really good at talking, they got a good personality fit, but they don't know automotive? Do they need to be trained outside? Do you need to send them somewhere, or is that type of training that you can do in-house? What are your thoughts on that?
I like to do it in-house. That way they're learning what they're actually going to be working on or what they're going to be working with. That way everything corresponds to that type of vehicle or that line of vehicles.
That makes sense. And they can get some real product specific knowledge that way that they're not going to get outside.
Correct. Yeah. It doesn't do them any good to learn outside the realm of what they're going to be dealing with, in my mind.
That makes sense. And I always feel that if you have a choice and can do it well, in-house training is superior than sending people out. Now, sometimes there are areas of training that you have to look for outside training sources for, certainly just because it's too hard or too complicated to develop the in-house expertise to train in an area. But if you can pull off excellent in-house training, that's always kind of the premier thing to do.
Yeah, if that way you teach them how you want it done, and that way as well they get the same level of service or the same trained service that they got last time they were there, and also then the next time they were there, they come in as well. It'll be the same training, the same
So it
status.
delivers a consistent customer experience.
Consistency. Yes. Yep.
Yeah, consistency is such a key that I think we really struggle with in the independent dealer realm. Being able to deliver consistent customer experiences across all your employees, across all departments.
I would fully agree with that. Yep. They can, no matter who they deal with, they get the same type of service, same level of service.
We talked a lot about your service riders, and often in the used car dealer space, our service departments will only have one service rider. But let's talk a little bit about the two other big positions in the service department: service technicians and service managers. Let's start with service technicians. What are kind of the qualities and attributes that you're looking for out of a technician?
I would look for somebody that is, again, consistent, honest, knows what they're looking for, and can address the problems of the customer's car. Honest recommendations to prevent future problems with the vehicle.
In your background, where you come from, did technicians ever have contact with customers, or was that entirely through the service writer?
It depends on the technician. Some technicians, we did not want them talking to customers. Some technicians would do fantastic with customers, and some of it depends on the customer too. Sometimes the customer wants to talk to the guy that's turning the wrench on their car. So it would vary little, but normally it was the advisor's job to translate what the technician said to the customer in kind of terms that they would understand it and would make sense to them, or give it to them in the order they would want it in.
I guess just drawing from my background, the complicated diagnostic question, the complicated diagnostic problem. Would you have the technician talk to the customer in that type of circumstance, or did you still try to avoid that?
We would try to avoid it if we could. Normally, the advisor would ask the technician questions to where they fully understand what's going on with the car. That way, they can explain it to the customer where they feel confident. If the technician tells the service writer should know at that point how to explain it to the customer, so that, because the advisor, the service consultant, would understand the kind of the diagnostic.
So that sounds to me like that would itself be an important training point, that service problem customer interview would be a pretty valuable skill for that service writer to develop quite quickly.
Yeah, the technicians and service advisors need to communicate and communicate well, and understand each other, and be able to put it in terms where the advisor understands what the diagnostic is, and just like the advisor needs to give it to the technician so they understand what the concern is as well with the vehicle. So the advisor
Interesting.
kind of translates back and forth, and kind of in two different languages. One of the what the customer is stating is the concern, and then one be able to give that information to the technician, and then the technician understands to for the advisor to relay it back to the customer in terms that they can understand as well.
So now to pivot on to kind of the third position there in the service department, the service manager. I always thought that this was a really tough position for us. It was a difficult job. We kind of had a lot of turnover, honestly, with our operation in that position. What do you see as the keys to success for the service manager? What are the attributes? What are the things that make an excellent service manager?
Excellent service manager is somebody that basically kind of takes ownership of the department, and does some continuous training with their advisors. It was always important to have kind of the open door policy where the advisors feel comfortable coming in and talking to the manager. The manager also feels comfortable talking to the both the service writers and the technicians. It's very much communication, and training is key in that. It's a kind of a give and take. It's as a service manager, you want to lead them the direction you want them to go, and you want to help them get there as well.
How many on average service techs per service writer? What do you see as the ideal ratio?
We would run about 3 to 4 technicians per rider. There's always going to be situations where a real strong rider can maybe do a few more, and a beginner rider maybe a few less, until they can build up to that clientele and take care of the customers accordingly. You know, sometimes you have to adjust that if stuff's getting dropped or getting left behind, getting left off of stuff, then you need to adjust that for the advisor and for the technicians. And it's whatever's kind of best for the customer.
Interesting. Well, real interesting talking to you, Travis. Look forward to having you back on the podcast again. But thanks for joining us. And with that, it's been another episode of Down Payment, the podcast for used car dealers. Check out our podcast on all our social media channels. We are at Down Payment Podcast on YouTube, Down Payment Podcast on Instagram, and Down Payment Pod on X.
Thank you for listening. Down Payment, the podcast for used car dealers, is a production of Meta Financial Services Incorporated.